Dzień dobry. To anyone that's Polish, I apologize for how awful that sounded. See, my Polish isn't very good. My family is from Poland. My grandparents' first language is Polish, so Polish isn't exactly a language I'm unfamiliar with, but I've just never bothered studying it. The only other words I really know are kurwa and Pravda, and besides that, it's not really much else that I can retain from when I've tried studying Polish. Lidia, however, is clearly Polish. She's from Poland. She's Polish's prime minister. Polish is Poland's prime minister. And in fact, you might be able to say that she's so Polish that she's polished. And you might be able to say that she's a little bit too polished. So I want to go over what I think about her and tell you where I think she's going to stand. So I'm going to start with listing some of her strengths. I gotta turn down my audio real quick. So the first thing is that her punishment is fantastic. I'll go over it real quick. Put it on this page, I think. So she has as a 10 frame 1-1 and 1-2-2. 1-1 is more of a counter hit fishing string, I think, than supposed to be a 10 frame punish, but still works as a 10 frame punish. 24 damage plus 5, and you can do 1-2-2 if you want to go into stance and force a mix up. Just depends on the situation and how you want to play. She has an 11 frame punish, which is really nice. Back 1-2, 28 damage plus 5 forces crouch. 12 frame punish, 4-2-4 is really nice because it wall splats, and even outside of the wall splat does pretty good damage for a 12 frame punish. For 13, she has back 2-1. So what this is going to do, the reason why you would want to use this is because it doesn't knock them away, which leaves you close enough to be able to perform a mix-up afterwards, whereas if you do this, you knock them down. Now in practice, maybe 4-2-4 is going to end up being better as a punish than the 13 frame back 2-1, but that's the way I think it's supposed to work. Then for 14, she has forward 1 plus 2, 3-2-1. It's a long string, 41 damage. It surprisingly doesn't actually get a clean wall splat at the end of it. But still, fairly nice 14 frame punish. And then for 15, she has up forward 4, which is possibly her only poor punish, and it's her only 15 frame punish. She has something like this as well that she can do, but this is going to do the most damage, so she at least gets a launcher, and the damage on this isn't exactly awful. I've still seen combos where she's getting 65, 70 damage off this, and it's day 1, so there could be more that comes out of it, but for the most part, her punishment game from standing is really, really solid. She has an 11 frame punish. Her punishes in general are average to good. I think having that 11 frame punish is really nice, but she doesn't have any bad punishes, that except for maybe up forward 4, but even then, you're still seeing her have a lot of wall K, and you're still seeing her have 65, 70 damage with that up forward 4, so it might not be terrible. It's really going to depend on the future. What really starts to get a little bit obscene, though, with her punishment is her while rising punishment. She has while rising. Did I write this down wrong? Oh, it's 4-2. I wrote down 4-1. Yeah, while rising 4-1 as an 11 frame punish, 25 damage plus 8 is really nice. And what's great about this is, unlike a character like Leia, you can just do while rising 4, and while rising 4 by itself is a pretty nice poke from crouching. This is not something that most characters have when they have a full 11 frame while rising punish. She then, for 12, has from crouch down forward 2, which wall splats, which is insane. See, wall splats, insane punish. Then for 13 frames, she has while rising 1, 2, and at the wall, she has while rising 1, 4. And it wall splats, which is pretty nutty. Then, if you want to get even nuttier, at 14, she has while rising 3, 2, which wall bounds. Wall bounds, which is insane. And then for 15, she has 2, which is a generic launcher. So her while rising punishment is just super good. Her while rising punishment is super, super, super good. I think she's the only character in the game to have a complete while rising punish at 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 frames. And not only that, but she also has a wall bound at 14 frames. It's insane. So her punishment is really, really, really strong. Speaking of punishment, her whiff punishment on the surface may not seem so good because her only launcher that she has in neutral, this hot kick, doesn't have a ton of range. It hits, as you can see, at about range 2. Something like her while rising 2, if you want to do instant while rising, is a little bit better, but it's still not great. But what she does have is while running 1. Oop. She has while running 1. And what her while running 1 acts pretty much the same as Elisa's while running 2. And I can tell you as an Elisa player that her having this tool for whiff punishment is very, very strong. And it acts almost exactly the same way as Elisa's while running 2. Comes out at 13 frames, knocks down and gives a guaranteed follow-up, is plus 7 on block, but we're talking more about whiff punishment than pressure right now. And she can do an extension here to force a mix-up after this hits. It's very, very strong. It's very good. So even though she doesn't have anything from around here, anything from around here that can launch the opponent, what's important is that Lidia can whiff punish the opponent from all the way out here with while running 1 because of how much range it has. So she can do that as a whiff punish. See? So I can tell you as an Elisa player that uses while running 2 a lot for whiff punishment that is incredibly strong. And again, if you're around this range too, you can do instant while rising 2 for a whiff punish from here as well. So it's not like she doesn't have whiff punishment, it's just if you want to get a launcher from around here, you're going to need to use a little bit of execution. But in fact, this has a little bit more range than I thought. Does this hit from around range 3? Not quite. This is probably about the tip range. Yeah, about there. About 2.75, I would guess. But that's still really strong. And while run 2 is incredibly strong as well. She has really, really strong keep-out tools as well. She has tools like down forward 4, for instance, comes out at 15 frames, is only -4 on block, +4 on hit. It's really nice. Has pretty decent range too, as you would hope for it to have for a keep-out tool. About 2.5 is where it's going to be hitting, which is really nice, especially because it has these extensions off it. And if this counter hits the opponent, no, sorry, I'm thinking of a different move. Yeah, I'm thinking of the next move I want to talk about. But that's really nice too, and it's especially threatening at the wall because, well, you get wall splat there. Same with the 3 as well. Wall splats. And then she has, like, back 3 as well. And I think this is the move I was thinking about. Doesn't have quite as much range, but again, it's +4 on block, -7 on hit, and it has these extensions here. And what's really important about these extensions, she has that and she has the 1, which is unsafe here. But what's really important about these extensions is if the one counter hits, then you get a guaranteed 14 frame follow-up here for 53 damage if that counter hits, and if they're at the wall, you can do 4-2-4 and get a wall splat, which is incredibly good. It's incredibly good. And then if you do the 4-1+2, then that's going to be natural on counter hit and will do 40 damage. And because of the frames that these come out, and you would think that this might be reactable, but I've tested this a lot, and I don't think it is. So, even though this is -7, those extensions, especially at the wall, are going to be really, really scary. And what's also really strong about this move is that the high here is -9, and the full string is -5, and has pretty good pushback. So, this string is the only risk that you have throwing it out is them ducking the high, but then if they duck the high, you can do the 1, and if they're not swinging into it, you can just use this as a nice keep-out tool and as a pretty decent poke tool. So, all around, really good. She has some really, really good keep-out options. She also has some really nice pokes as well. Moves like back 2, for instance. This is a really, really nice poke. And in fact, it's just kind of better than her down 4-1. Comes out 13 frames, +6 on hit, -5 on block. And you, on hit, you get this, the 1 for free. And then if they start swinging into this, you can do the 3, which is -9 on block, which is kind of insane and is a full launcher on counter hit. This is kind of like Elisa's down back 1 on steroids. Sorry, down forward 1 on steroids. This really is just her down forward 1. It's just not a mid, but her actual down forward 1 is much worse than this, and it's a great, great, great poke tool. Forward 2 as well. This move transitions in the stance only on hit, and it's -2 on block, and has pretty decent range as well. +15 into stance, which is just insane. Down forward 3 is a pretty nice poke as well, coming out 14 frames. The extension here is -12, but gives you a guaranteed follow-up on hit. Sorry, what I meant to do here is show that on counter hit as well. This is... I'm an idiot. What I meant to show here is that on counter hit, this is all natural as well and gives you that follow-up for 54 damage. Really, really nice. And then, of course, at the wall here, wall splat, which is super good. And then, you can also kind of mix it up with this. Your opponent can fuzzy guard this, so it's not that good doing the full thing here. But what is important about this is if they block it, it is +7, I believe, on block. Yeah, it's +7 on block. It jails, so if they block the first high, they're not going to be able to duck the second high. And because the 2 hits that come out here, and because if this second hit hits, it has the same kind of effect as the first hit where it reels them back and you get that follow-up. What that means is that you can actually just throw out the first hit here. If they block it, it's -3. If they duck, they're going to be waiting for that second hit, which means you get to take your turn again if you want. So, that's really good. And then she has down back 2, which is just Dragunov's down 2, except it's slightly worse on block. It did make Dragunov's down 2 -13, right? Oh my god, I can't remember anymore. It's been so long since I've played against the Dragunov. But yeah, it's worse on block, but this essentially acts as Dragunov's down 2, which is pretty nice. She also has down back 4, which on the surface might look like it's seeable at 22 frames, but from my testing, I actually don't think it is, because the startup for the animation is so slow, it's actually hard to tell that she's doing this move. Could be wrong though, but I don't think this is seeable, and if it's not, it's a really nice low poke, +1 on hit, which is really nice. Solid damage and knocks down on counter hit. Gives you a guaranteed follow-up. It's really nice. She also has some really good pressure tools as well. Something like while running 1, for instance, she can use to get in from long range and is +7 on block. Sidestep 2 is pretty nice. 0 on block, forces crouch, and on counter hit, this is going to knock down, give you a guaranteed follow-up here, and on hit, it's going to be +5, forces crouch, really nice. Down 1, it's kind of the same as Sidestep 2, except it's +8, forces crouch, doesn't give anything guaranteed on counter hit, but on block, it's +2 and forces crouch, which is insane. It's an insanely good move, insanely good for pressure. She also has Sidestep 4 here, which launches on normal hit, comes out 16 frames, and is only -6, which is just really nice. And then she has something like down forward 4-4, which is like Falcon Ram's full launcher, and +6 forces crouch on block. Insane. Doesn't actually come out 12 frames though, so you're not going to be able to use this as a 12 frame punish, nor even a 16 frame punish, but it's insane, the frame advantage you get on block, and you can mix this up with her Keepout tool down forward 4, and you get a really nice little mix up here that can be really strong if it connects, and is even really strong if it's blocked. So on top of that, she has great pressure tools, and she has really great mix-up tools, mainly because of her house sweep here. 37 damage, causes a knockdown. If they stop rolling, you get a guaranteed down 2, which is really good. And these work in conjunction with most of the moves she has here. You do down 2, you're able to force the house sweep. If you do Sidestep 2, you're able to force the house sweep. Remember, because this is +2 as well and forces crouch, you can even force the house sweep when this is blocked, which is really good. While running 1 is going to push them back a little bit too far for you to be able to get the clean hit on the house sweep, which is what's required for it to actually be a house sweep. But you can dash into it and then get the clean hit, and people aren't going to contest this because, well, you're +7. If people are trying to contest that, then they're going to get hit by anything else that she has. And then again, down forward 4-4, right, +6 forces crouch, which again sets up for the house sweep, and because this is +6, this will trade with a dick jab and lose to anything else. So her mix-up game is really strong when you use back 3 in conjunction with her pokes and her pressure tools, right? Because since her pressure tools are so strong, and because of the staggers that they have on them off of something like back 2, that really helps set you up for forcing this mix-up as long as you're cautious about it. And then when you use a move like down forward 4-4 that's really plus on block, then that also sets you up for it. Man, I didn't talk about this too, but in regards to pokes as well. No, I did talk about that. Maybe I meant, oh yeah, I meant down forward 2. Down forward 2 is a really nice poke as well. But yeah, then you say, okay, well, what about the mids? And well, the mids, you can do something like this, you can do something like this, and if these hit, then yeah, they're not going to launch, but they're going to put your opponent in a really precarious mix-up situation when she goes into stance, and it's going to, if they hit, it's going to at worst do a lot of damage. Well, at best do a lot of damage. At worst, it's going to launch, because she has quite a few moves from those stances that that launch on normal hit. Speaking of her stances, let's talk about her mix-up stances real quick. So, something that was worrying me about these stances a little bit is that I thought a lot of these mix-ups were going to be reactable. What I have found is that surprisingly some of them aren't, because the animations blend together. The thing is, with moves that are around 20 frames, like what Lidia has, moves are going to be reactable or not reactable depending on the animation, how well they blend with other moves. And what I found from Lidia in her stances is that this high is reactable, and I don't think that comes as a surprise to anyone. This low is reactable, and it's actually pretty easy to react to. And this mid is reactable. And besides that, surprisingly, I haven't found anything else that is reactable. This was one that I was particularly worried about being reactable, but it seems like it's not, because the way she moves her legs is actually very similar to her 2, so much so that the only way you're going to be able to see that she's doing the 4 instead of the 2 is towards the end of the animation, and by then, you don't have a chance to be able to react to it. Which means that her mix-ups in these stances are very strong. So, hopefully I remember everything correctly, but here's how this ultimately works. If she does forward 2 here, and she'll go into stance here, the options that she has, she can do the... oh god. She can do the 2 here, and this will catch someone who's trying to stop Lidia from going into a second stance, which is the more threatening mix-up stance, because it has the 1+2, which guard breaks, and it has the 1, which launches on normal hit and is safe. It's very, very strong. So, if you're playing against an opponent who wants to stop you from doing that, this move is going to be the one that catches them and launches them. The other moves in this stance are kind of mute. The 4 is used for players that are trying to launch Lidia after this connects, because as you can see, if she goes stance into stance, she is -5, and she doesn't have a 10-frame move out of that second stance, which means if your opponent gets a read on you, then they can launch you. So I think what this move is supposed to do is it's supposed to be a move that's plus on block, and again sets up her mix-up, like something like down forward 4-4, but it will launch an opponent who is trying to launch her. But you're probably better off just using the 2 in most situations anyway. The 3 I think is just supposed to be combo filler, and the 1 is a high that's plus on block that doesn't seem like it's particularly good. You can tech out of that, by the way. So then you go into her second stance here. And like I've already told you here, the 2 from my practice is reactable, and it's not going to be reactable online, but offline if you play against a really strong player, this is going to be reactable. So that's something that you have to keep in mind when playing this character. It's probably really important that you learn to play this character without using this move in particular. But that doesn't matter, because she has this mid that's going to launch on normal hit and is -6, and she has this blue spark high 16 frames plus 14, which gives you a guaranteed follow-up here. So the way that I've been looking at this, and I think the way you might want to look at this too, is when she goes into this stance, essentially she's getting a Kazuya 50-50. The mid is going to be a safe on block launching mid, and the high here is essentially a house sweep. But it's an advanced house sweep because, well, it can wall splat. It's more like maybe Devil Jeans if he's not right near the wall. Lidia can also, because she's plus 14, if she wants to, do her actual 14-frame move if I wasn't completely incompetent for 41 damage if she wants. But if you're at the wall, you're going to want to do the forward 2-4, and that's going to wall splat and do a ton of damage. When it comes to her back 3+4 stance here, this is something that's going to come out off of like 1-2, and is going to come out of down forward 4. I unfortunately can't remember off the top of my head what her rage drive does. I want to say it's this one, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So, what she has in this stance is she has... can't remember. yeah, so this on counter hit will give you a guaranteed follow-up, 48 damage, and put you into her cat stance 1. I don't know what people are calling it, unfortunately, but it'll put you into that stance. She has this 2 here, which is really nice. It's safe. The first 2 hits are guaranteed if the first hit connects, and if the second hit is counter hit here, if the second hit is counter hit here, then the third hit will be guaranteed to do 43 damage, and it wall bounds, which is really important. So what that means is that when you're just in neutral after you do a 1-2-2, you can just do the 1 as a poke, and then if people start trying to take their turn after you do this, unfortunately you can't delay it, but then you can finish the string. If people want to try taking their turn after they block, say, the 2-3, which is, by the way, safe on block at -6, then the 1 will connect and will wall bound, and at -7, that is incredibly strong, as I'm sure you can imagine. The 3 here is also really nice because it kind of does the same thing as the 2, but is more, I think, is more supposed to be used after something like 1-2-2 as a punish, because what this will do on counter hit is it'll screw them. And because it comes out 13 frames, this is a move that's designed to interrupt people from Lidia transitioning into the second stance here. So that's really nice. And then she also has a hell sweep from here as well. So when it comes to... Oh, and she has 1+2 here, which is 17 frames, -10 on block. But what's really important about this stance is that the moves she has out here are high, low, high, seeable mid, and unseeable punishable mid. So, most of the time when you're fighting against Lidia and she does like 1-2-2 and goes into this stance, you can just crouch and react to the mid, the 1, and probably be fine. But because she has the threat of this 1+2, even if you're playing against a really good player that can react to that, the 1+2 is still going to connect if they keep crouching. It doesn't option select every option, and of course it wall splats. Very strong. And then if she transitions again into it, then she can do the 4 here. She can do a 1, which is very plus on block. +6, in fact. So really, really nice. And then she can do the 2 here. This is much, much stronger at the wall. Just like, I shouldn't say just like, but sort of like this is much stronger at the wall than it is in neutral. But it's still very, very strong for what it is. This being very plus on block is very nice and does an amazing amount of damage. This low is pretty nice, 23 damage, and I think you get a follow-up off it, but don't quote me on that. And then you got the 2 here, which is just, it's really strong. So the point I'm trying to make, the reason why I wanted to go over all of that is I just wanted to illustrate just how strong her mix-up all of those stances are. And what's also really important about that is that she can do that off of forward 2, which is an incredibly strong poke. She can do it off of a 10-frame punish if she wants, and she can do it off of her rage drive, and she can do it off of something like down forward 2, which has pretty damn good range and is a mid. So it's her stance mix-ups are very, very, very good. But what's important about them is that she has to take a risk if she wants to get into this second stance here. But if she just wants to apply mix-ups from her first stance when she does these moves, the risk posed to her is not very high. Moving on from that, back 4 here is a incredibly good step catch. And the reason why, even though this looks like something that would be duckable on hit, it's actually not. The whole string here on hit is guaranteed, which is really, really good. And what's also really important about this is that the initial back 4 by itself is already a pretty decent homing move. It's -3 on block. It's +6 on hit, and you know what that means if you're close to your opponent. And because you have the threat of that low that you have to deal with this only being -3, if someone blocks this and is looking for that low, well, then you can take your turn again, even on block. Which is obviously very strong, because even if someone, say, blocks this high, they're still going to get hit by the low and the mid for 33 damage. And it's going to knock down. It's incredibly strong. I think it's very strong, and people aren't talking about it as much as they should. It's insane how good this stat catches back 4. Doesn't do anything on counter hit though, which is probably its only fault. But when it does that and it allows her to take her turn again on block, it's really good. It's kind of insane how good back 4 is for a homing move. Even if it's the only homing move, it's really good. Let's see, going back to some strings, she has some good stagger strings, and she has some good counter hits off of her strings, and I showed you this already a little bit ago, but something like back 4, for instance, something like back 3-1, which is plus 14 on counter hit, right? I showed you this before. Something like down forward 3-1 and the 2 extension, and even something like 1-2-4, something like 1-2, yeah, it's just the 1 hit, but something like 1-2-4 as well. What's important about 1-2-4 here is if you just do the 4 and it counter hits, oh god, then you get that guaranteed follow-up for 39 damage. What's nice about this is a lot like Elisa's, because if you just do 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, your opponent's eventually going to want to take their turn if you start throwing this out as a poke, and then when they try taking their turn, they get a little bit impatient. That's when you can throw out the 4, and at the wall you might get something a little bit better guaranteed. I'm not sure right now, but that can be really nice as well. And it's just an example. She has a bunch of moves like this. Her counter hit game from strings is insanely strong. Her parries are also pretty obscene. And the reason why I say her parries are obscene, I'm actually going to want to switch to Heihachi here, because it's going to give you a much better example, mainly because I know these off the top of my head with Heihachi. It's going to give you a much better example on why I think her parries are a little bit underrated right now. So, with Heihachi, if Heihachi, and this is going to be no surprise to anyone, if Heihachi does something like 1 back 2, this is obviously plus 2 on block, right? But the thing is, because this ends in a right punch, Lidia can change this move that's normally plus 2 into essentially minus 14, which is insane. It's insanely good. Something else that she can do too is Lidia can also do her normal punch parry, like that, see? And that's going to give her there we go. I don't know why that wasn't working before, but that's going to give her a 40 damage punish on it, which is really nice if you get the blue spot, 38 if you don't. But here's something that makes this a little bit more insane. If your opponent does a string like Heihachi's doing here that ends in a punch, and Lidia knows it's going to happen, yeah, incredibly strong, since that's off of a 12 frame, which means most things Lidia is going to be able to punish that way. Just to What's the move I'm thinking of? Yeah, see, so if you parry a down forward 1 here, you're going to be able to get a 10 frame punish off this if you get the timing right. Now, the timing is tough to get on something like a down forward 1 here, but you can see that if a down forward 1 can be punished with a 10 frame, then imagine how many moves can be punished with a 12 frame at the wall and cause wall splat. Which means that doing strings against Lidia that end in any type of punch is going to be really, really dangerous. Let me show you where it gets a little bit worse. See how that says punish? You understand how that says punish? Don't know if I can get this quite to work, but I'm sure if someone has the execution, because this comes out of a forward input, it's going to be a little bit hard to do if you can do it. But even if you don't want to bother with that, you can just hop kick, and then you get to launch punish something that's minus 13, or maybe even something that's normally safe, right? So her parry is incredibly strong, and I don't think enough people are talking about it. And then obviously there's her low parry too, but I mean, I think everyone has seen what she can do with her low parry. It's not as obscure, I guess, as the other things she can do with her other parries. What's also really important too, I think, about her parries is normally the reason why parries are can be weak is if you bait them out, like this one, for example. If you bait them out, then you can launch your opponent for doing the parry, right? The problem is, off of something like down forward 1+2, this comes out as a move, and it's a fairly slow move, but on hit it's very good at +7, and on block it's only -2. This could be a serviceable move on its own, so you add on top of that it punch parries, and that just makes this insane. Same with down back 3+4, -3 on block, on hit it's +6, which is insane. Considering that these are supposed to be moves that parry. It means that you can't just bait these moves out. You can't bait out a low and then have her do this. You'd have to try counter-hitting her out of these stances. And I'll get to her counter hit in a minute because I think that's an important point to make. But because of that, her parries are just really good, and especially when you consider that this parries right punches, what that means is if you're playing a character with a safe down forward 2, and Lidia throws this out, hey, guess what, that shit's no longer safe anymore. Yeah, another thing too is that Lidia, she fights best when she's close to her opponent, because she has things like this, she has the house sweep, she has pokes like back 2, but all of these have fairly close range. When she's out here, a lot of moves that she has aren't going to hit, but she has a lot of moves that allows her to close distance very quickly. Running 2, for example, 1+2, which she can cancel into a step. Something like if you go from a running motion, you can do running 2 and you get forward 2, which has a pretty damn good range, and as I said before, is a really good poke. And you can say, well, she's susceptible to sidestep there, and yeah, sure, but then if you're sidestepping all the time when she's out here, you're not really threatening her, and if she needs to get in, she can just run in, because, hey, you're sidestepping. So her ability to close distance is really strong. Even from the surface, it might not seem like it's that strong. And then she has just a really good, solid wall game. I showed this enough before, I think. And she has really, really good rage drives as well. she has 13 frame punish with Rage Drive, and she has a low mix-up from Rage Drive that does really good damage, and she can extend combos with her Rage Drives as well. Super good. That's her strengths. That's her strengths. This is taking a lot longer than I thought it would, and I apologize for that, but at the end of the day, there's so much good about Lidia that I think it needs to be talked about, because I think this character is incredibly strong, and I'll get to my overall thoughts on this in a minute. But, let's go over her weaknesses real quick. And to be honest with you, it was kind of hard to come up with any weaknesses with her. One thing I've been hearing people say a lot is that she's susceptible to sidestep, and I've been hearing people say that she's susceptible to sidestep left and sidestep right, and I think this is semi-true. I compiled a list of all of the moves that she has that track to specific sides, and I'll put them on screen now if you want to see it. And as you can see, a lot of the moves that she has don't track to either side, and I think that is something that is definitely a weakness of hers. But when it comes to sidestepping right, moves that she has that catch sidestep right are her house sweep and her sidestep forward. So I think sidestepping right is a little bit too dangerous there, and maybe you want to sidestep left instead. But then she has all of her pokes that track to sidestep left, like down back 2 for instance, down forward 4 tracks, down forward 2 tracks except to sidewalk left. Moves like back 2 track to sidestep left, 4 tracks to sidestep left. Up back just tracks to both directions. This move may as well be homing. I believe that her hot kick does as well, but don't quote me on that. I'll put on screen if I'm wrong about that. From crouch down forward 3 also tracks to sidestep left, but not sidewalk left. So she has a lot of all of her pokes are tracking to sidestep left. Her launches are tracking to sidestep right, and at the end of the day, even though she can be weak to sidestep, if you want to sidestep her right, you have to deal with a high launch that's plus on block and a house sweep that you're going to eat if you try sidestepping right. So you probably don't want to sidestep right there, even though a lot of her moves don't track to the right. But then if you track left, she has really solid pokes, like all of her really strong pokes track to the left. And on top of that, she has a really strong homing move off of back 4 that's also going to catch you if you're sidestepping in either direction. So sidestepping right is really bad, and sidestepping left is not very good either. And is it just me, or did it get a little bit warm in my room? Is this reminding you of anyone in particular? Nah, it's probably just my imagination. But I think that thing that people are talking about with her being weak to sidestep, on the surface maybe it seems true, but I think in actuality, in actual practice, she's not going to be very weak to sidestep. I think at long range, she is very susceptible to sidestep, because something like running 1 is going to be susceptible to sidestep. Something like forward 2 is going to be susceptible to sidestep. But like I said before, if you're saying the sidestepping is sidewalking when she's at that range, that gives her free reign to just run in and apply a mix-up. Or just get close in your face in general. So really the only actual weaknesses I could come up with is her 15 frame launch punish from standing is fairly weak. Now, I don't know what the optimal combo here is, but even though that's fairly weak, it seems, she still has really great wall carry from it, and I've been seeing combos that go upwards of 65-70 damage, which is better than some characters down forward 2s already, like say Leo's or Elisa's. So even though her 15 frame punish is weak, it's not like it's so weak that it's not serviceable. It still does decent damage. It just means that her launch punish from standing isn't going to be quite as strong as some other characters, but that remains to be seen. It could very well still be incredibly strong, even though it tailspins. We have to sort of wait and see on that, what people come up with combo-wise with her. Her stances, when she transitions into stances, are very high risk, because, like I said before, doing something like this is going to leave you susceptible to getting counter hit launched, because, as you can see, if she does this and she goes into stance here, she's -5. If she does this and go into stance, she's -11. So, forcing that mix-up from those stances does leave her very vulnerable, because the startup on those stances is so long. But I don't think that's necessarily a weakness, because she doesn't need those stances in order to be able to perform exceptionally well, because of the rest of the tools she has outside of her stances. So the biggest thing I think in regards to weaknesses is that she has poor counter hit tools outside of strings. In strings, her counter hit tools and her stagger pressure seems to be obscene. But outside of that, her counter hit tools are fairly poor. The best counter hit tool she probably has is this Magic 4, but this is only going to actually combo if you do 4-2 here, which, yes, is going to give you a full launcher on counter hit, but the problem is that this high can be docked. But it has a mid extension. It has the 3 here, except it's 29 frames, so it's easily seeable, and it's -10. And even if it wasn't seeable, you can fuzzy this. It does tailspin though, so it's a little bit less punishable than, say, the 4-2, but at the end of the day, when the 3 is reactable anyway, your Magic 4 may as well be -10 with a tailspin. And I guess the damage that you get on this too, with it being 36, isn't too bad. In fact, it's good because it tailspins, but I would still say for a Magic 4, it's on the ass side, and besides that, she doesn't really have much else of a counter hit game. She has some moves that on counter hit guarantee another move like this, and you can use this as a counter hit fishing tool. And in fact, this is probably maybe her best counter hit fishing tool. Comes out 14 frames, is mid, and has that stagger on it as well. But besides that, it seems that her counter hit game is fairly poor. And that's all I could come up with in regards to weaknesses. Something I'm seeing a lot of people saying about Lidia is that her weaknesses are sidestep and duck. And, well, that reminds me a lot of Falconround when people were saying he's mid-tier, he doesn't have any lows, and you sidestep and duck. I'm hearing the same sort of thing about Lidia, especially the sidestep and duck part, but I'm also starting to hear a little bit that, you know, she doesn't have any good lows because she has to clean hit off of her down 3 and stuff like that, which just isn't true. Her lows are incredibly strong. Even if she just has the hell sweep, she has so many ways to be able to set up the hell sweep, and it does so much damage that is really strong. I'm hearing people say, oh, but her hell sweep doesn't give her very good Oki, and I suppose that's true because she's -7 here, so you can just get up, but at the end of the day, this is still doing 37 damage and knocking down. Lidia still has advantage here. I think that's what's really important to remember about this, and even if she doesn't have good Oki, it's still 37 damage hell sweep, and she has other lows too, right? She has, like, from crouch down forward 3, she has, like, down back 4, she has, she has, I guess she has down 3, right? But besides that, yeah, she doesn't have any good lows, but something I always say when it comes to Lidia, when it comes to Falconround, is you only need a low, and you have a low. It's the same with Falconround. He doesn't have good lows, and then it turns out, well, Yeah, he may not have the best lows, but the lows he has are still serviceable and even good at times. Something like his bow and arrow is incredibly good. His hell sweep isn't as good, but it's still good, and he still has those lows that can poke your opponent, and you can kill them with those lows. And I think that same kind of thing is happening with Lidia right now as well. So, overall, at the end of this very, very long video, I think Lidia is a character that reminds me a lot of Leroy and Falkenram after they were nerfed. I don't think that Lidia is broken. I haven't played her online. This is first impression, so it sort of remains to be seen. Could be wrong on that front. Could be wrong on anything I say, to be honest. But first impression wise, Lidia to me comes across as not being a broken character, but still being way too good, way too overtuned. Reminds me again of Leroy and Falkenram after they got their second patch. The patches that made everyone see them as not broken characters, but still have really obscene tools that they frankly shouldn't have, and stuff that just makes them way too good. They're still the best character in the game, they're just not broken anymore. They're still way too overtuned and much better than every other character in the game, especially when you also consider how difficult they are. But, well, or lack of difficulty, I guess. But, they're not broken. That's how Lidia comes across to me. So, what do I mean by that? Tier-wise, she's the best character in the game. She's not broken, but I think she's the best character in the game right now, based on first impressions. And the reason why is because she has all of these strengths and 1 or 2 weaknesses that aren't even that big of a weakness. And her strengths, not only does she have a bunch of strengths, but she even has strengths and things that wouldn't normally be weaknesses. Like, we can say that a character not having strong pokes is a weakness of theirs, and Lidia has something like that, but it goes beyond that, and it also goes to her having really strong mix-ups. Character doesn't need really strong mix-ups to be strong, and a character not having strong mix-ups isn't necessarily a weakness if they have pressure and keep out and pokes to be able to make up for that. But Lidia has those things and the strong mix-up game. She has not just a good step catch, a serviceable step catch, but a ridiculously good step catch. She has good stagger strings, which again normally wouldn't just be a weakness towards characters. Her parries are incredibly strong, which again, a character not having a good parry isn't necessarily a weakness that a character can have. So when you consider all of that, that's why I make the judgment that Lidia Sobieska is a bit of a monster. And I don't know how long it's going to be until people start figuring out how she actually is. But that's what I think. And I hope I don't get shit for this, like I got shit for Falkenram for calling him broken on day 1. But I probably will. But I'm willing to lay my cards on the table, because looking at her, I mean, I don't see any other way I can say it. I just looking at this, looking what I found with her, looking at what she can do, I don't know how I could interpret this as her being nothing but the best character in the game. So that's what I think of Lidia Sobieska. And again, I apologize for this being such a long video. I wasn't expecting this to go on for 55 minutes, but that's just how it was. At the end of the day, there was a lot to talk about. Maybe I'll edit some of this down, make this a little bit more concise for all of you watching, or maybe I won't, because honestly, there's nothing that is really worth skipping over. So yeah, anyway, thank you for watching, everyone, and have fun with Lidia, because she's, despite her probably being really obscene and needing a lot of nerfs, she's a cool ass character. I think Well, that's not what matters, because Leroy was a cool-ass character, too. But at least it's not a shit character like Fakenram or Dragunov or Jack. Well, Dragunov's cool, but at least it's not Jack.